this is the best advice I can give, and this has been my experience. Ultimately, whether you take any of this on board and go and have a good life doesn't affect me. I'm doing this and I'm going to continue to do it, and it makes me incredibly happy. I know if you do it, you'll have the same outcome for you and you'll go live an amazing life.
So guys, welcome to Business Beats, another episode. Today we are talking to Daniel Manno, who's the founder of Barrow, a successful boutique construction company based in Victoria, Melbourne, Australia, for those of you overseas. Welcome, Daniel.
Morning, how are you?
I am very well, So look, I guess our core demographic for the show are people in business. We deal with a lot of companies, sole traders, and there's one thing that we find as we deliver education to some of these small business owners, or SMEs you would call them, is their challenge about how to scale a business, right? How to build a business, and there's so many different verticals in there. So I guess I'd like to start, just talk a little bit about Barrow and where it started and sort of where you are now, if you could.
Yep, no worries. So I started my career, I took the university path to becoming a builder. So I didn't do a trade. And my first job actually while I was studying was as a quantity surveyor. So I was doing estimates, in the preparation of construction projects, so working on high rises, that sort of stuff, but also was doing progress claim assessments and tax depreciation schedules and a whole really broad range of things to do with, I suppose more the estimating side of construction. I then switched from that to project management. I enjoyed being a quantity surveyor, but it sort of just fell into it while I was studying, and got some really good experience out of that. But got into project management, again, mostly working on apartment buildings and multi-unit developments, but very much client side. So working in an office, suit and tie in the city, not spending a hell of a lot of time out on site. To go from that, I suppose, to really wanting to work for myself. So even though I worked for some massive companies, very well-known companies, I suppose I didn't really like the idea of having a ceiling placed in my career, which is really, I suppose that was the driving force for getting me into working for myself. So moving from, I suppose, the office environment to becoming a builder and getting my license, to learning to work with my hands and all that sort of stuff, it's definitely been a journey. I suppose I've definitely got an appreciation now of what it takes to approach it from both sides of the industry, really, to become a successful builder, to the point now where it doesn't really matter to me what I build. It really is about who I work for, who I work with, how we work, as opposed to the prestige of a project or anything like that. None of that really interests me. It's more about I suppose just having the opportunity to work properly and really enjoy it, as opposed to getting out of bed stressed, chasing money, and just generally being a stressed builder, which I don't like being.
Yeah, look, interesting. I think, especially in Australia, a lot of people go into business as a sole trader. And for those of you who don't know, a sole trader is someone who just doesn't have a company. They work for themselves under an ABN, right? And they just move in that direction without any conscious thought whether that's the right thing to do. So can I ask you, when did you consciously make a decision to go, hey, okay, here's my pathway. Like I work in the construction sector. I'm very conscious this is where I want to go. Or did it just happen organically?
I actually started a teaching degree straight out of school. So originally I wanted to be a maths and biology teacher. I didn't see myself doing this, but I don't know whether it's genetic. Every male in my family's ended up in construction as a builder at some point. So, but I was actually the first to go to uni to do it. So I built my first house when I was 18 through a builder. So obviously I didn't build it myself, but just really enjoyed the experience of it, and really took an interest in it. And then I finished my first year of teaching, took a year off because I wasn't really in love with it, I suppose. Working in the school environment, again, very restrictive. I suppose taking the year off was really good for me to sort of give me time to think, and decided that I wanted to give construction a go. Enrolled at Melbourne Uni, and then basically started there. And it really wasn't until I suppose I got to probably 6 months, 9 months in my project management career, that I really decided, no, I really, really want to go work for myself, and yeah, wanted to become a builder. Up until that point, my goal and ambition really was to work my way up the corporate ladder, work for a big multinational consulting firm and stay in an office, and that wore off pretty quickly, and yeah, find myself here.
Yeah, look, they say right. I don't. There's so much data out there on this metric, but they say that 1 out of every 3 businesses fail, right? Or is it 2 out of every 3 businesses fail? There's a lot of conscious verticals in that space. It's that, look, they may be good at one thing, but not good at managing money, how finance works, how to recruit people, how to create a culture, how to build and scale, right? So now I'm assuming the teaching, the project management, working for those big companies gave you a platform and a learning foundation to start your own business. Would that be right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the one thing about, I suppose, getting into quantity surveying, even though a lot of people might not even know what a quantity surveyor does, but working for the companies that I did and working for large, international firms, they've got processes in place, and the 2 companies I work for actually had really good cadet programs. So as I was studying, basically I was working in the field as well, going to meetings, just even basic things like structuring emails and reports and that sort of stuff. Like we had to follow certain processes, and even basic advice I still follow today. If you're going to put something in writing, say an email, assume that it's going to be read out in open court. And so, everything that I write, basically, even if it's clients I've got really good personal relationships with, everything basically, gets written so that if it's ever read out in court, I can defend it. So those really basic things in terms of process, working with those companies made a massive difference to how Black Barrow runs. And there's a lot, I suppose, of that's formed a really solid foundation to what I do today.
Yeah, look, that's super interesting, right? I think a lot of small business owners in Australia, especially in the construction space, don't get that opportunity, right? They don't surround themselves with people who are highly experienced in administrative tasks or business, right? So I guess could you talk to us about what are some of the things that, if there was the guy leaving finishing his apprenticeship and then going out into the world and working for himself, how does he gain that knowledge? Like, what could he do to increase his chances?
The first thing I'd say, I suppose the most important thing, is to ask questions, and not just one question of one person. Ask the same question to a half a dozen different people, because certainly what I found, and I suppose this has sort of what led me to work for myself, is a lot of the times I'd ask someone a question just because I'm fairly curious by nature and I want to know the reasons for something. A lot of times people don't answer me, and the answer would be, oh, I know that from experience. Now, to me, that might be good enough for someone else, but that's not good enough for me. So I want to find it in an Australian standard, or in a construction code, or in a piece of legislation, or something that I can refer to and go, okay, I can rely on this. And I suppose working with different trades, working with consultants, like construction is such a broad area, field to be working in. My approach is to ask 6 people one question and see, do I get the same answer back 6 times? Do I get 6 different answers? Is it 4 and 2? Like, that sort of leads me in a direction of, okay, can I rely upon what people are telling me, or do I need to go do my own investigations? And now, even if someone tells me the time, I'm still going to check my watch most of the time. That's more just for me to know, I suppose, whether I can rely upon what I'm being told. And even if I do know the answer to something, a lot of times I'll still ask a question of someone to see whether they know, whether they're relying upon what someone has told them, or whether they've actually gone to check something for themselves. So asking questions, even basic questions, is probably one of the most fundamental things, I would say, to succeeding in any industry, let alone construction. But because it's such a broad industry, because there's so much to know, it's very easy to either let your ego get in the way, or to be shy, and to risk being embarrassed and to not ask someone a question. But for me, I think it's just better to ask and see what someone, says and what answer they give back, because they may not know themselves, in which case, okay, this is an opportunity for me to go and learn something one way or another. So that's how I've gathered a lot of my experience, and that started well before I became a builder. And that's sort of what led me to changing careers, to become a project manager and to work for myself, because I realized a lot of people that I was surrounded by wanted me to do something in a particular way, but they didn't actually know why I needed to do it that way. That's just the way they had done it, and that's why I was expected to do it.
Yeah, look, that's super important, and not just in business, but in life, right? Like there's a saying that we have around here is, don't listen to people who tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Because it's normally probably the wrong thing, right? So what you're saying is validate the information, especially when it comes to business, especially when it comes to working on site, making sure that information is right. And I agree, right? Like there are standards, there are laws that we have to follow. It's a high risk industry, I think what you're saying as well is get in a habit of not learning everything and remembering it, but knowing where to reference it and find the copy that you need to read to make sure that it's right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, working in construction, the nature of the industry is the next failed job is just around the corner. It doesn't mean that necessarily the job fails in that sense. It could be that an agreement that you've signed, there was a condition in there that you didn't read through, or there's a note on the drawing that you missed, or the client might make a selection that they want to change, and that may not have been in writing. Like there are things that I suppose you need to be aware of, because people do change their mind, things do get missed, mistakes do get made. Whether you're on the receiving end of that as a tradesman, as a builder, even as a client, like that's, I suppose, getting into that habit of checking things. Essentially, that's your only safeguard to make sure that when something does go wrong or a mistake gets made, that you're not the one on the receiving end of it. So, yeah that's my approach.
Yeah, look, I get it. And that's a good lesson for everyone to learn, right? So talk to me about the day-to-day operations of the standard, trade qualified guy working in the field, supporting his family, making money, right? I think this is really important for people to understand. I think they realize that, okay, my job is, say, carpentry, right? For example, it could be a plumber, electrician, whatever that may be. But they think their job is just to do that, right? And send an invoice and get paid. But really, it's probably more than that. Would you agree?
Yeah, look, I suppose every trade, the best trades I work with, look, whether this is a consultant, whether it's a tradesman, the best people in the industry that I work for don't only know, obviously, their job in depth, they know what has to happen before they start, and they know what has to happen after they finish. So a good carpenter is going to be aware of what a concreter needs to do and what the plasterers and joiners and everyone else that follows a carpenter needs to do, because that understanding, I suppose, helps you when you first get to a construction site to understand, is this in a state that I can start? And then, have I left this in a state that the next person can start? Because if the answer to that is yes, then you have finished. And if that's the case, you deserve to get paid and get paid on time. So the best people that I know, whether it's trades or consultants that work in construction, know what they need to do, but they also need to know what the person before them needs to have done and what the people after them need to, to do as well. So
yeah, that's super fucking interesting, because here's what I think happens is that people do the wrong thing, or they don't realize they're doing the wrong thing. There's a dispute, which is pretty common. There's a dispute, and then no one gets paid. Yep. And then what happens if you 2 or 3x that? You normally go out of business, right?
Yeah.
Like, because they don't have enough cash flow, because they don't know how to manage cash flow to support the business through those times, right? So being preventative is certainly a positive step forward in growing a company, right? So so what are the 3 sort of common pitfalls of a non-compliance and someone not paying an invoice? Like, what could these guys do to ensure that doesn't happen outside of leaving the job well, so payment comes through well, right?
Yep. Look, what I'd say is the information that you've got to quote on is extremely important. So if you get drawings that are incomplete or instructions that are incomplete, or you make assumptions and you don't write those things down, you don't document it, you're basically opening yourself up for a builder to come through and to say, we're not paying for this, we're not paying for that, after you've done the work. That's number one.
That's a big problem, right? Because it's after you've done the work and you've gone through.
It's too late then. Yeah, it's far too late then. You've spent the time and the money and the labour and materials. So the information that you're given to quote, number one, that also demonstrates the builder's understanding of what they are asking you to do. So if someone just sends you, a heap of rubbish to quote off, that's their understanding of what you need to do, which probably gives you a good idea that, you're going to be fighting uphill to get paid and to do a good job. Probably the second thing I'd say is to actually understand things like the Security of Payments Act. There are laws in place to protect contractors, basically. And I very, very rarely get invoices that are basically submitted to me as claims made under the Security of Payments Act. So the Act, if people go through and read it, actually gives subcontractors protections in there so that as a builder, even if there is defective work, I actually have to pay the invoice in a lot of cases regardless. And I have to then make arrangements to get defective work rectified. I can't withhold payment of an invoice because there's a minor defect on something. So, but if someone doesn't make a claim under the Security of Payments Act, well, then I suppose it's a lot harder for someone to make those enforcements on me as a builder. I can have a different conversation with them. So, look, a lot of the guys that I work with, a lot of the trades that I work with, we never get to that because I suppose we've got a common understanding of the standards that we're working to. But when you work with a new builder or when you work on a job that you're not quite sure about or you're worried about, making claims under the Security Payments Act does make a big difference for a subcontractor ultimately to get paid. So, I suppose those would absolutely be the two most common things. And just making sure that, I suppose the third thing, making sure that whatever agreement gets made, whether it's a quote that gets accepted, whether it's a subcontract, a purchase order, whatever the final agreement is that basically you're entering into, to make sure that that's detailed enough before you start and everything's written down to say what is in scope, what is out of scope. So even if the drawings are incomplete and you move forward and give a quote, make sure that you make the effort to actually document what's there, because things like, basic things like rubbish removal and access, safety requirements, all that sort of stuff, like attendance and inductions, like they're things that add up. Like, if you start adding up hundreds of dollars on every job over the course of a year, that's thousands of dollars. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's important, right? I think that administrative contract is so critical because if anything is going to go wrong, that's the document they're going to pivot into, right? Look, ignorance is not the right journey in that space, right? It's like you can't say, well, I didn't know that. That's probably not going to apply in a court of law, right? So I think that's a really important one for those listening, is that to understand the landscape and make sure that the expectation is set correctly and you understand what that looks like. That's critical. So, and I guess that goes for a $10 million building company, a $50 million building company, all the way down to the guy who's earning $150,000, $200,000 a year, right? It's all the same thing. Would you agree?
Oh, look, absolutely. I mean, if you're earning hundreds of dollars, a day, then, $10, $50, $100, like that's going to make a big difference. If you're earning thousands of dollars, like, okay, you're earning more money, but the numbers are bigger. Chances are you're probably going to lose more money too. If you're earning millions of dollars, like the scale is the same. But I suppose what I would say is that if you're on, I suppose, the lower end in terms of income in construction, anywhere sort of up to, maybe earning a couple $100,000 a year, the mistakes that you make if you're doing, lots of smaller jobs, those jobs might have less of an impact than, if you're earning hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and you've got 10, 15 people working for you, you make one mistake, it's pretty easy in those circumstances to lose your entire business over one thing. So, I suppose I've always thought that at any stage of the business that I'm operating and I'm trying to grow and develop, everything matters. So, if I'm losing hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars in, the initial stages of my business, I'm probably going to be transferring those mistakes as I grow. If I don't do anything about it, and hundreds and thousands will turn into tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, which, that's crippling in the long run. So I think it's important. Doesn't really matter the scale.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of verticals and principles to that, right? I think sometimes small business owners go into, it's like Jane, who's really good at baking pies, right? And I think I've said this before on another interview, is that she's really good at baking pies, so she opens up a shop, but in 6 months she goes out of business and loses all of her money that she invested because she knows how to bake a pie, but she doesn't know how to run a business. Or sell for that fact, right? So I think that's a really common trait for a lot of small business owners in Australia, especially working in construction. So they need to go and find that information, right? They need to educate themselves. They need to read and learn. So what are some of the, like I always say to a small business owner, do you have a good accountant and do you trust them?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because someone has to manage the money, right? Because these guys just sort of spend their money on stupid stuff, like, $500 sneakers is a really stupid idea when you're not making enough money. So can you provide us with a little bit of advice for a small business owner who's, doing $150,000 a year? Like, what could you say to help him manage his money better?
Look, what I would say for anyone, whether you're, if you're looking at getting into running your own business, or you currently do run your own business and you want to grow it, the single most important thing I think that any business owner can do is a business plan. Because fundamentally, if you can't take the time, can't be bothered, don't have the experience, the expertise to sit down and to write what you're going to do, chances are you no chance to do it. So it's very easy to just get an initial idea in your mind and just charge off and say, okay, this is the direction we're going. But writing a business plan, I think, is the most fundamental thing to a business's success. Now, it's not just when you start your business, but if you're going to shift from one, take your business from one place to another, to start offering new services, change direction, whatever it is that you want to do, anytime there's growth or change, I think it's really important to write down what you're going to do before you do it.
Hey, can I interrupt you there? Because this is really super important, right? Like, so I want to just get a little bit micro on that. So when you say write a business plan, I just want to break that down a little. So how long should the business plan be? For what sort of term, and what's actually in it?
Yep. So the government actually has a standard template that you can use. That was the first one that I downloaded and used. And it's set up for people that are in supply and service industries and that sort of stuff. So it's very generic, very broad. To go through that and to actually pick out the relevant parts and say, okay, I'm a builder, I don't need to worry about the same considerations as someone who's manufacturing or things like that. But there's a lot of stuff in that basic template, and that's where I started. Basically, in terms of things that you would want to cover, first and foremost is the structure of your business. And by that, I mean, are you a sole trader, proprietary limited? Is it a partnership? To actually make that decision. Now, to do that, most people would have to say, okay, well, I don't know the difference between them. So getting back to my original principle of ask a heap of questions, I don't know about business structures, and I didn't when I started. So who's the person that you're going to ask? Well, obviously an accountant. Okay, I need to then go and speak to an accountant, but I'm not going to speak to one. I'm going to speak to 3 or 4 or 5, however many I need to basically interview people to say, this is the business that I'm trying to set up. I want to become a builder, a carpenter, whatever it is. What do I need to think about? What do I need to consider? What do I need to plan for? What are your fees? What services do you provide? What are the timings? When are these payments due? Ask a million silly questions, as many as you can think of those, of those accountants. You're going to get a lot of information back. Going through that process, you will ultimately be able to pick an accountant, and you will get a lot of information, a lot of feedback, a lot of advice. And that's the first place that I would start, looking at your business structure, because that's something that may change over time. You might stay as a sole trader. You might move to a proprietary limited, whether you start as a proprietary limited and the shares of your company are owned by a trust, or you operate as a trustee of a trust. There's a whole heap of different structures that, a lot of different people in the industry work within. Changing from one to another is possible, But depending on when you do that, that could quite seriously cost you tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital gains tax and other taxes and fees to go and pull this all apart and to change it. Now, I've gone through that process 3 times and knew when that change was being made from a sole trader to a proprietary limited, to then reconfiguring the company, I suppose, and introducing trust and that sort of stuff. So there are different stages when all that happens. And in terms of the business plan, using this as an example of how, like the period of time that your business plan should cover, ultimately I look at it as, okay, what am I trying to achieve? So I'm trying to set up a business. Well, essentially the business plan needs to cover the establishment of the business. And for something like the corporate entity structure, there will come a time where that structure expires. So that business plan would basically end when that structure expires. So whatever that next milestone that I need to hit. Now, there might be another consideration that actually that you reach beforehand, which means your business plan is no good, and you need to reinvest time and effort into preparing a new one. So it may not be company structure, but as an example, that's basically how I go through it, and I figure out what is that first milestone that basically makes this business plan obsolete. There may be a period which basically I've experienced where I've written a business plan that then has taken me potentially 12 to 18 months to go through and to put all those things in place. And then I've worked for 2 or 3 years basically under that business plan and nothing's changed. And I think that's another really important point as well. When you go through a period of establishment or growth, to actually spend some time enjoying the benefits of all that work that you've put in and actually making money from it, because it's extremely expensive to establish, to grow, to develop. So once you've actually gotten to the point where you've finished that business plan and you've implemented everything, to spend 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, understanding what you've done, implementing it, make really small changes and stay focused on what you've done so that you can actually make money from all of that effort, as opposed to we're going to go from establishment to our next plan, to our next plan, to our next plan. And all you're doing is putting in effort and money, and you never actually get to experience the benefit of what you've done. Like, you will make money along the way, but to actually say, you know what, we're not planning for future growth, we're not planning for anything. We're going to sit here for 12 months and I'm just going to enjoy implementing what I've done and make money from it. And I don't have to spend anymore. I've put everything in place. I can take those profits and I can go and buy the $500 runners or the $100,000 ute or the speedboat or whatever, because I'm confident knowing the minimal outgoings, the business is set. I've just got to get out of bed and go to work and enjoy doing what I've set up. So that's my approach.
Yeah, look, and look, that's all valid, right? And I think just to add to that, I think, you know, the business plan doesn't have to be complicated, right? Keep it simple, because I think the decisions you make today will influence the decisions you make tomorrow, right? So, you know, I normally advise guys to like keep it short, keep it to 12 months, and just think about the next 12 months and get laser focused on that. I think you've got to put the numbers in there. I don't think many business owners think about the numbers. Like, what does it cost to run my business? What's my gross margin? What's my net margin? And what money can I put aside for a rainy day in case the business needs it? What money do I put aside for growth? Because people start businesses not to stay in the same place. They obviously want to grow those businesses, but sometimes they don't realize that. You know, if you started a business, you know, 10 years ago and you were earning the exact same amount of money, you know, and doing the exact same thing, you're not going to feel good about that. You're going to want to jump off a bridge, right? Because come on, let's face it. Building a business is about prosperity. You want to create prosperity for yourself and your family. So, you know, people need to realize, get focused on where's my growth? How do I do that? Am I laser focused on it? Who do I need to reach out to? What questions do I need to ask? And essentially, how do I turn those wheels right? And I think in that construction space, they run forward and they don't pause and stop and breathe and think, God damn, where am I now? What do I need to do, right? Because it's all, look, I'm too busy to do that. Well, and in fact, you know, learning creating a business plan should be part of your strategy every day, right? It can't just about like being on the tools is great. That's what physically generates cash and makes money. But if you don't do the work behind the scenes, that effort becomes, it's challenging, right? The success that you could get from it tends to wane a little bit,
Yeah, look, I agree. I think the other thing is too to say, okay, this is the objective. I want to get to a point where I'm earning 150,000 or 250,000, $500,000, whatever your objective is. To actually get there and to say, okay, I'm going to implement this now. I've done all the work, done all the planning, I've bought the tools, I've done, reinvested money in marketing, branding, whatever you've done. Have I actually gotten myself to a point where I am now earning 150 or 200,000, whatever your objective was? Because there's no point saying, okay, I've done all this stuff. I think I'm now earning 150 grand. Let's go and make a heap more decisions. But in essence, you haven't moved yourself any further along when all you're doing now is spending money and accruing debt. So it really is important to pause and to actually say, okay, I'm going to use this time to plan for the next stage while I'm understanding and making sure that, I did actually do what I set out to do. And this is real. This is tangible. I'm actually making that money.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like we even said in a morning meeting this morning, I said to them, most people don't know actually what their income is.
Yeah.
Especially a small business owner, right? This is why you got to have a good accountant, people, is like they look at the gross number. They say, hey, I invoiced $10,000 this week. They actually think they made $10,000. That is not the case. There's liability on that. There's taxes you have to pay on that. There's probably GST in that. You know what I mean? There's wages you need to pay, operational OPEX that you need to pay as well, right? So, it's finding, we should collaborate on a course and show people how to get your money for that week or for that 30 days and how to budget your money out so you can be sustainable, that you can enjoy the hard work you've done and still grow your business all at the same time. And it's 100% achievable. Maybe, I think that's what sort of people need in the market these days. It's very challenging for them that, there's no courses or there's really no information out there that's easy to access that can directly, specifically tell them you should do X, right? Yeah. So it's a bit challenging, but you're right. Look, have a good accountant, trust that accountant, and also probably have a good lawyer, right? And trust that lawyer. Those are
absolutely. And an insurance broker.
And an insurance broker, absolutely.
I would say, look, they're the three. My accountants and lawyers, they absolutely send me some bills and they get paid. But look, you need to pay, you need to expect to pay for good advice. And if people aren't giving you good advice or responding, go and interview other people, because that sort of advice, really good accounting advice, really good legal advice, they're the sorts of things that, like I was saying before, when something either goes very right or very wrong, it's generally going to be, the outcome's generally going to be as a result of the advice that you've been given by your accountants, your lawyers, your insurance brokers. And like I said, I know for myself, because I've been through this, changing business structures, the time that I did it, saved me nearly 6 figures in tax that I would have had to pay. So that's, we're talking serious amounts of money. And even, in terms of legal advice, contracts and agreements that I've had in place on projects have been the difference between me still operating comfortably and me having a real time of it, trying to go to court to sort something out. So, look, they're absolutely the three, but I suppose there's all sorts of other things too. So, reliable people to service and maintain your tools and equipment, getting your vehicles checked and all that sort of stuff. Like, everything works as one. If you can have all your office processes, down pat and in place, but if you take your tools to site and your high pressure cleaner doesn't work, or your lawnmower doesn't work, or your caulking gun, is jammed, or your electric saw, your drills, your batteries are failing, like it all works. It's all one big thing. And I suppose, to me, I know the biggest thing, like you were saying before, there's so much to learn and it's hard. There's no manual on any of this. The secret really is to absolutely fall in love with what you're doing, but fall in love with all aspects of it. So I had a uni background. I'm more than comfortable sitting at a desk. I've fallen in love with digging a hole and pushing a broom and pouring concrete and installing structural steel, operating an excavator, a posi track. Like, these are things that I know are fundamental to being a builder. there's no aspect to my business that I'm not fully prepared to do with a smile on my face. Even paying my tax bill, it is a fundamental part of it. And if I don't take the time to understand one aspect of my business, that's probably going to be the aspect of my business that causes me the greatest grief, and probably where my next major issue is going to come from. So,
well, that's so common, right? I think these guys, sorry to interrupt, but I think these guys don't stack money and cash aside to pay the tax man.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you have to pay them first, people. You know what I mean? Because if you don't, and you compound that over 2 years, and then they catch up with you, and you don't have the money, well, then, you know, that's not going to be good, right?
No, and look, as you start to work on bigger projects, this is where having a really good relationship with your accountants makes a big difference, because essentially the last, I don't know, dozen major projects that I've worked on, I'm having conversations with my accountant about income tax, company tax, even things like depreciation and I suppose profits that I'm looking to invest in tools and equipment, in courses, training, education, whatever the case may be. So before I've actually submitted my my quote or my tender, I know the direction that I'm trying to take the company, and I know what this project is doing to further that. So I don't want a situation where I think I'm going to make $500,000 out of a project, but actually it's $200,000 when I factor in GST, company tax, income tax. When you start to have trusts and different corporate entities set up, there's different tax rates when you're shifting money from one to another and all this sort of stuff. Like it does start to get involved. So having those proactive conversations before you earn the money is a huge, makes a huge difference to your own expectations of what that financial year is going to look like, to whether you go to work excited and happy to be making the money you're making, because the number essentially that you're working towards is real, as opposed to, I think I'm making 100,000 and you've got to hand 30,000 of that to the tax office straight up, and you think, oh, actually it's 70. Well, yeah, there goes the jet ski or there goes the boat, and suddenly you're going to work disappointed as opposed to going to work knowing what you're going to make.
Yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of people, they start a business with the dream, right? Like they want to get the jet ski and the Lambo, right? Or whatever they want to drive. And what they do is they find out they've just really got an average paying job that they have to work twice the amount of hours they did in the last one, right? And that's so common. You know, it's just because I think they don't plan and strategize and understand exactly, you know, the thousands of mechanisms in running a successful business and how to generate cash and revenue and success, right? It's very... It's complicated, but it's not impossible. It's a learned skill. We're not born with it. We have to go and find the people that can give it to us. That, you know, that common phrase, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? I'm a big believer in that. I think in business, surround yourself with good people who are smart and growing successful businesses, and attach yourself to them, right? I think that's a good step for small business owners.
I think that's where the continued education, I suppose. I had the benefit of having this as part of my education, taking the university route. Now, taking a trade route to becoming a builder, you only get experience in one half of the industry. So you do your training either at uni or you do a trade on site, and you have to learn the other half. So for me, taking a set of drawings and converting that to concrete and steel and timber on site, that possesses its own challenges. Just because a drawing says there has to be a square hole here doesn't mean that the sides aren't going to cave in, and doesn't mean you've got access and rain and all sorts of other stuff. When you take the trade route, to actually start to educate yourself, to start with a certificate or to do a diploma, or to do short courses, and like I said, to interview all the consultants that are going to support you through, you know, your journey, that's your continued education. To say, okay, well, I know a little bit about tax because, you know, I'm operating as a sole trader, or I'm running my own company as a carpenter. All of that changes, you know, when you become a builder, and to say, okay, I am going to start to educate myself now and to do some courses, or to go and study, because that really is where you learn a lot of this base knowledge that you can then use that as an initial foundation to start having more involved conversations with the people that you're paying ultimately to support you and to plan for all this stuff, so that like you said, we all have the dream. As you start living the dream, you actually get to hold on to that dream. You don't get to hand it straight back to the ATO, because with super contributions, that sort of thing, where the penalties are ridiculous and enormous if you're missing super contributions or your tax payments. Pre-planning for all of that, it's huge in terms of your happiness and in terms of your career. And like I said, studying that when that hasn't been your experience is another critical thing. You have to learn and fall in love with the other side of the coin, the one that you weren't exposed to. That's the one that you've got to get really excited about.
Yeah, super important. So let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about mindset, right? So I think I remember coaching a young guy who ran a landscaping company. He was probably on about $100,000 a year. Super smart guy. Had been working as a sole trader, registered as a company, and he wanted to go, how do I get to $250,000, right? So he came to one of our training companies, and we enrolled him in a few courses. I said, well, the first thing you need to do is you need to aim for $1 million. Because if you aim for $250,000, you're not going to get that, right?
Yep.
So it's that principle of 10x. So we aimed for $1 million, and in 12 months he did about 1.3. Which is an incredible journey for a young guy. He was about 26, 27 years of age. And his biggest challenge was mindset, right? He did not believe that he was capable of doing that. Yeah. And all he needed was the right people around him, and he needed a business plan. He needed a target. He had such a good work ethic. He was very focused on targets. I sort of saw that in him, and we created a target for him and a process across 12 months to achieve that. And he blew it out of the water, which doesn't normally happen. He's probably 1 in a million, but it doesn't mean to say that you can't do it. A lot of people can. So talk to me about mindset, because I found with him it was about his mindset. It wasn't about his capability. So what have you found from your experience? Did you need to look at that? Did that need to change for you as you grew your company?
I suppose for me, I've always been, I've never ever told myself that I can't do something. There's plenty of things I might not be able to do right now, but that doesn't mean that I can't do it. I suppose I definitely learned through my own life experience, and definitely as a builder, commitment sorts everything out. There isn't, you don't have to be the smartest person sitting at the table. You don't have to be the most experienced. You don't have to be the richest. If you are the most committed person, you will achieve whatever it is that you need to achieve. And when I go back through and I look at my all the template documents that I've got in place, when I look at all the tools and equipment that I've got, when I look at all the degrees, the certificates, when I look at it in its totality, I think, wow, this is ridiculous what I've been able to achieve so far in my career.
Yeah.
And it seems like an enormous amount, but it was just one thing at a time, day after day after day after day. And even the most ambitious business plans, you just break them down into individual tasks. And I think that's where writing things down makes it so much easier, because instead of keeping a concept in your mind of, I want to make $1 million, well, I'm not focused on that when I get out of bed. I'm just trying to find enough commitment to achieve the very next task along that journey, which might be to read a standard. It might be to ask my accountant something. It might be to pay my tax. It might be to fill out a form, to dig a hole, whatever it is that is along, I suppose, the next step along that journey. Writing it down, having that plan there, like you said, getting the people around you that you need to support you, and to have the commitment just to take the next step. You don't need to have the commitment today to do what you need to do tomorrow. You just need to have the commitment today to do what you need to do today. And tomorrow is another story, and the day after. And when you add all of that up, the sum of all those little commitments, that's when you start to realize your $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year profits. It is a genuine sustained commitment that gets you there, but you don't have to focus on that, because you can't go from 100,000 to $500,000 overnight. It will be a series of days where you are just finding that commitment. And from a mindset point of view, essentially, that's all I focus on. If I find myself uninspired, or I'm tired, or I'm lazy, I just find a way to say to myself, break it down to a smaller component. If what I'm trying to achieve seems like it's too much, or it seems like I don't have the mind space for it, or the head space, the motivation, break it down to a smaller task. And that task might be just read one paragraph. And then I might need a 5-minute break, read another one. Instead of trying to tell myself, read the whole document, read one, read another page. I've read one page. Well, now it's easy to read two. And I've read two, I may as well read three. And it just snowballs from there. So that's how I approach it. And there's been plenty of construction jobs. I'm sure, the people listening to this would have experienced that themselves. When you're working on site, you've got 40 degrees sun on your back, or you've got, wind, it's 2 degrees, your hands are frozen, and you think, I've got to shift, 5,000 bricks, or I've got to pour 100 cubic meters of concrete, or I've got to dig 10 post holes, or I've got to install 10, lintels, or whatever you're doing. You just focus on the next thing, and you just get yourself through to the next task. And that, to me, if you do that, you can't help but succeed. It's impossible to fail, because you're not failing every day. You're just achieving the next thing that you have to achieve, and if you do that enough, you will succeed.
I always say, just put the shoes in the gym bag, right? Man, I don't want to go today, and there's this little guy on your shoulder telling you, oh, look, you can work out tomorrow, but if you just put your shoes in the bag, you walk the bag and you put it in the car, it's just one small step forward, right?
That's it.
And sometimes, you're right. I think that's such good advice. I think some people look at the whole picture and it freaks them out, because it's too overwhelming, right? And by doing one small thing at a time, it's achievable, and you get momentum, right? So then once you get momentum, things start to occur, right? So that's certainly good advice. So, I
think the other thing I'll just touch on with that is, there are other builders out there and other tradesmen out there going through the same thing. Even though the specifics of our journeys are all different, the roadmap with what we're trying to achieve, by and large, is all very similar. And even though we all have to have an individual approach, because your business has to reflect you and your skill set and who you are, we're all going through the same journey. And I think it's important to reach out to people, to form a little network, whether it's through social media, whether it's through networking groups or industry memberships, or even training providers, the people that you're studying with, to connect with people and to talk about your journey and to share it together. Because I do find it inspiring to have those relationships with other builders and trades, and to share, when something goes well and when I've achieved something, and vice versa, and to listen to people, and to have people that you can talk to that understand what you're going through, and to remind each other just to take that little next step and to be proud of what you've achieved. Because a lot of the times, when we're working for ourselves, whether it's on site or in an office, those struggles and those achievements we keep to ourselves. And I think sharing that with people, posting things to social media, having conversations with other people going through all that, I think is really important to maintain that mindset, because you might have to work on something for 6 months or 12 months before you can present it to a client, before you can get any financial benefit out of it that might give you some joy and happiness. Having those little wins and having those little affirmations, and the opportunity to to vent a little bit, to talk to people, I think that's where, especially in the digital age, to form those connections and to understand that there's more than enough work for everyone. There's nothing wrong with forming a friendship with another builder or a tradesman that's in the same field as you, and connecting with people that way, I think, is really important. So, I suppose that's the other thing that I would say about sort of maintaining your mindset, to surround yourself with people that are going in the same, sort of direction, experiencing the same thing, and sharing it with them.
Yeah, that's such good advice. These guys just need to understand that you got to stop doing the same thing every day. You need to learn. You need to get an accountant, for God's sake, like get an accountant just to do your books. At least if you start there, at least you know your money's being managed well, right? They just don't get that time. It's crazy. And they lose so much money.
Falling in love with the other side of the coin like that, to me, is essentially what you need to do, because there are so many different aspects that you need to cover as a builder, or even as a tradesman to grow your business. There's so much stuff that you have to teach yourself and to learn, and that's I mean, whether people do that or not ultimately is up to them. That really is it. You don't have to.
It's funny. Well, I think most won't, but that's okay. If I sometimes think, if we market to 1,000 people and 100 of them call us, but 10 of them do a course and one of them actually does something really special, I think that's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, look, so do I. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I always think it's about 3%. I think 3% of people will actually do something and take on board the information and run with it, and the other ones will try and fail, and the other ones will just ignore it, right? But Daniel, talk to me about why education has played a pivotal role, you think, in your success with Black Barrow.
Yep. Well, I suppose that's essentially your understanding of what needs to happen is the foundation for everything that happens in your business, and mine is no different. So the education that I've had and the experience that I've had, that essentially underpins everything that we do and why we do it. So there isn't anything that happens in the company that happens without a reason, and every reason basically is born out of something that I've learned somewhere from, whether it's a course, whether it's been on site, whether it's been through talking to people and interviewing consultants and trades and that sort of stuff. So to me, there is nothing more important than developing your understanding of what you need to do and why you need to do it.
So qualifications, talk to me about what sort of qualifications you've got and why are they important to you?
So I did a Bachelor of Planning and Design and a Bachelor of Property and Construction at Melbourne Uni. That's where I started, I suppose, in the construction industry through Melbourne Uni. But since then, I've gone on to do a Certificate 4 in Occupational Health and Safety. I've gone back to TAFE to do my Certificate 3 in Carpentry. I've got, in terms of high-risk work licenses, construction certificates, plant and equipment certificates, everything from tower crane licenses to working confined space, excavator, skid steer, cranes, like you name it. There isn't anything that I'm not open to learning. And doing all of those courses, it's amazing what you pick up and what you learn. And as a builder, it's an incredible benefit to me to know what people need to do or what trades need to do before they get to site. It influences everything happens during the design stages, during my planning, during quoting, how I plan a job, what I ask the trades to quote on, how we work together. The more courses I can do, the more I can educate myself, the better. And it doesn't matter what it's about. If it has anything to do with my company, with Black Barrow, with construction, it's going to be on my list to do it at some stage.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like no one is born with intimate knowledge of the construction sector.
No.
So you're a construction baby. Okay, great. You go and work in that sector.
Yeah.
Right? It's all a learned skill set, right? So it's good to hear you say that, because we constantly say that as an education provider to that sector and other sectors. It's like, even if you get one thing out of it, you get two things out of it, and it helps you grow personally and it helps your business grow. It protects your business and lowers the risk. Like we have a lot of guys working illegally, right? I says, well, you don't really need to do that. There's some licensing where they can't invoice and quote over 3,300 because they don't have the appropriate license. Well, just go and get it. So that just means they need to go some education. Now, everybody's scared of it, right? Because they're not like you. They haven't gone to university. They don't have a bachelor degree. And education scares them, right? They just, it freaks them out. they want to do it, but they're very scared of it. So could you tell me about that? Like, probably you haven't faced that because I think you got into it pretty young, right? Maybe at that time you were scared of going to uni and doing that degree, but what advice could you give to someone, your average tradie, who is saying, hey, look, I don't have the time, right? I don't have the time and it really scares me and I don't know whether it's going to help me. What would you say to those?
Well, I'd say the vast majority of my education has actually been in more trade-based qualifications and licenses and certificates. And ultimately, if you're going to work in an industry and you're going to start, I suppose, in the construction industry through a trade, then getting high-risk work licenses, learning, getting certificates to work around power lines and like assets, services, and that sort of stuff. Working at heights, working in confined spaces, asbestos removal, all these sorts of things. Getting your tickets to operate an excavator, skid steer, getting heavy rigid truck license, all that sort of stuff. They're things that you can go and hire an excavator or buy an excavator and just start operating. But when you actually take the time to do the course and you understand what you need to do, what a builder needs to do, what the trades working around you need to do, it makes you more profitable. It does, because you start to work for better builders. There are builders out there that demand trades and are short on trades who basically work to the standards that they need to, because there are clients that are prepared to pay builders to do a really, really good job. And there are builders that are absolutely prepared to pay trades to do the right thing. And I know for myself, I've done the courses personally so that I have an understanding of what trades need to do. But if the trades go and do that for themselves and they've got those qualifications and experience, it makes my job so much easier, and I'm less likely to query any quote that someone sends me. If I know, okay, this is the quote I've got from someone, I know that I can just say, yep, job's yours, go ahead. And I know I'm not going to have any hassles. They know exactly what they need to do. That is so much more valuable to me than someone that gives me a cheaper quote that creates a whole lot of stress and headaches and OH&S issues. And that, to me, I just don't want to deal with. So my job as a builder, as I see it really, is to take, the collection of quotes that I get from the trades, present that to the client and say, that's what your house is going to cost, as opposed to the other way of, telling a trade, well, this is how much, you need to work for. Having those licenses, having the tickets, having the education, the experience, the understanding of what they need to do, that is incredibly valuable. It's worth money. And it's worth money to me as a builder to employ trades and to gauge trades that have got that experience. So to me, that's, I suppose, that gets me over the fear, any hesitation I've ever had to ask questions or embarrass myself by seeming, asking a silly question. I know it's worth money to me, and I know that I'm going to end up working on better jobs, putting myself through it.
Do you have a project management diploma?
So I majored the property and construction degree that I did. That basically I majored in project management and quantity surveying. Now, what I would say about project management is doing base courses and getting a basic understanding of project management can make a massive, massive difference to tradesmen, to builders, to the success of your business. Because being able to plan is, I can't overstate just how fundamental it is to succeeding in business. And whether it's a certificate, whether it's a diploma, whether you go and do a degree in it, ultimately it comes down to some really, really basic fundamentals. And the number one for me is just ask questions. And number two is write things down and to read. They are the three things you absolutely really have to fall in love with. Don't be scared to ask a question. Don't be scared to ask the same question to 10 different people and to see what responses you get back. make sure you write things down and make sure you read. They are the three things that essentially all good project management comes down to. So, yes, I studied at a uni, but honestly, the most valuable aspects of project management don't have anything to do with what I did at uni.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. I think every builder should have a project management qualification, right? Because there's so many spinning wheels. You really have to be highly organized to ensure that you don't lose money, and that coordination of materials and people, right, is right on point.
Yeah, so the planning process that I go through and that all Black Barrow projects go through, I use Microsoft Project, and the Microsoft Project template that I have as my standard construction program. That is one of the two fundamental template documents that underpin the entire company. So everything that we do, that is one half of it. The other is my estimating template that I've developed, Microsoft Excel. But that project program template, as standard, has 8,500 line items in it currently. And that's constantly being developed. And that's full of essentially everything from the moment a client picks up the phone or sends me an email or a message to the moment I hand them the keys and say goodbye. Everything is written down.
Did you say over 8,000 line items?
Yeah, at the moment it's got 8,500 line items, and there's no way I can keep all of that in my head. All the inspections, all the checks, the timing of everything, the phone calls, the ordering, absolutely everything that I need to consider during the quoting stages, construction, handover. It's ridiculous just how much you need to know as a builder. But you don't get to that. I didn't get to that without reading and writing and asking a whole heap of questions. That's all it is. It's 8,500 individual tasks born out of me talking to people, me reading, and ultimately me writing it down in some form that makes sense to me. That's it.
So I think that sounded really good.
My general approach to all of this and all the guys that I've helped in terms of business coaching and stuff, I suppose my approach is to say to people fairly directly, this is the best advice I can give, and this has been my experience. Ultimately, whether you take any of this on board and go and have a good life doesn't affect me. I'm doing this and I'm going to continue to do it, and it makes me incredibly happy. I know if you do it, you'll have the same outcome for you and you'll go live an amazing life. But whether you do or not, ultimately, that is the brutal honesty of it. And that's, I suppose, where my passion comes from. I really do enjoy it, and I've fallen in love with it. And whether someone else does or doesn't, I want people to do it. I want them to go and have a good life, but you can't do it for them. So,
So what are you doing with Black Barrow at the moment? Because you said you've sort of paused things a little bit. You're restructuring. What's the plan for next year?
Yeah, so basically, as of today, actually, this morning before this conversation, I essentially finished the last task for the business plan that I've been working through for the last 18 months. So March last year, I started it. And this morning, I basically finished it. So as of tomorrow, I'll basically be advertising and starting to go back to work. I'll probably start just building a couple of residential brick fences because they're quick to start while I basically line some houses and other things up. And then I assume anywhere from June to September, those major projects will start off, and I'll take on less and less brick fences. And just imagine by the end of the year, I'll be essentially hands off the tools, just managing major projects. So that's pretty much it.
Just bigger sort of boutique residential builds. Is that what you're?
Yeah. Look, anything residential. It could be multi-unit development. I'll go build anything. It really doesn't bother me. The high security fences. I don't know whether my commercial clients are tipping money back into their budgets to go and do those because they've COVID, their OH&S requirements and procedures have gone through the roof. So they've had to divert money from infrastructure and capital works across to some other areas. So look, whether any of those regional jobs come up, I'm not sure, but yeah, I'll just be focusing on residential. And I suppose that's something else that might be worth, touching on in the future for trades or new builders, is to not forget about the small things. So for me, taking 18 months off and having like literally no projects in the pipeline, to go back to what I started doing originally, which is brick fences, because I basically build the majority of it myself without laying bricks and rendering and welding. All the demo, excavation, concreting, installing steel gates, intercoms, whatever, I do all that myself. So the ability to go back and to take on smaller jobs faster, to start earning some more money again, as I'm getting larger jobs off the ground, so that I'm not going from zero to hero.
Yeah, got it.
I'm dragging some money in. So to say, even though I think I've got a nice website and branding, and I'm got the capacity to take on major projects, there's no shame. There's nothing bad about taking on some brick fences to actually get money coming back through the door, getting back to site, engaging with clients again and that sort of stuff, and implementing those new processes on smaller jobs, while the big ones are being set up. So essentially that's my plan. Just go back to work start with some smaller jobs, get those through the door quickly, and then, basically start rolling out larger jobs in the second half of the year.
Yeah, cool. And it's a good market, right? Like here, the property market's pretty crazy. It's really booming.
Yeah.
What's happening in Victoria?
Oh, it never slows down here. It's ridiculous. And it's funny how there are little niche sectors with the industry that you wouldn't even think about. Like if I said to you now, Lawrence, how much could a bloke make building brick fences in a year? Just residential brick fences for mums and dads. What do you reckon a builder could top out at? Just building those.
Yeah, not much. A couple of 100,000.
Yeah. If you work 7 days a week with proper process in place, you can make up to 200 grand a year. Now, 200 grand a year, I don't know, honest to God, there's probably 2 or 3 residential builders that I know building homes that make 200 grand or more a year. The majority of builders I know don't make 200 grand a year. And they go and build $1 million plus homes. Yeah. And I'd make more building brick fences than they do. Now, to go to take those lessons and to transfer them across to building homes, I know for me that I can work 3.5 days a week and clear $500,000 a year building homes. Like I don't need to work more than that to earn that amount of money. I know blokes working 6-7 days building homes that wouldn't get near 200 grand. Like it just I suppose that's why I've spent 18 months putting all my processes into place, because and I'm welcome to show you one day, like whenever you're free, the detail of what I've done and the way it's all set up, it is unbelievable how efficient it is for me to do what I need to do to support myself to actually make money. I don't need to think about what I'm doing. I literally just need to go and do it.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Yeah, you don't have to build the $10 million home to make profit, right? And that's probably more stressful and it's more time consuming. And the margin can be the same as doing half the amount of work, right?
Absolutely.
It's really common though in business across the board.
Yeah.
And I know guys who have, 150, 200 staff. We make more money than they do.
Yeah, I know.
And I've got 50. We just make more money than they do. Crazy.
One of my best mates is a builder. He's got 8 employees. He's got, I think, 4 company vehicles, office, the whole shooting match. And I think in the last 3 years, I think I've probably made maybe 5 or 6 times more than him. And it's just me.
Yeah.
And I've worked. And so out of the last 3.5 years, I've worked a total of 6 months in 3.5 years. That's it. That time physically working is 6 months in 3.5 years. And I made 5 or 6 times more than he did in that time. And I spent most of it sitting at the beach and going scuba diving.
Wow. Did you tell him that?
Oh, he knows. Sorry, he knows. But yeah, but it honestly is. It's just because having the processes in place. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Opportunities are going to come your way, and if you've got all this stuff in place, as I'm sure you know, when those opportunities come up, you take full advantage. You actually realize some life-changing benefit out of it, as opposed to, oh, I made 50 grand out of this job. It was a good year. I made 250 grand out of that job, and it completely changed the course of my life. So, yeah, that's why I fall in love with all of this. I just think it's incredible. If you actually do it, you can have a life that other people just don't even get to understand.
Absolutely, you can. There's so much money to be made. There is an abundance of money to be made right now, and I don't think it's ever been like this before.
Yeah.
I look at the people working from their bedrooms making money, right? Young kids making money. It's just crazy how the market is now. But hey, and listen, Daniel, that's a great place to leave it. Really thank you for your time. So Black Barrow, your company, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so look, you can have a look at our website, blackbarrow.com. That's got all of our social media on there, whether it's Instagram. That's usually how we communicate with people as well. So yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch or to reach out, that's how they can do it.
Great. Hey, Daniel, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's been really good talking to you. Good advice. And as I said, we should collaborate on a course for people. I think there's a lot of learning that needs to be pushed out into the market that's accurate and that's easy for people to absorb. Yeah. So guys, stand by. It's coming. Yeah. We're looking into it. Again, thank you, Daniel, and all the best, mate. Really good to talk to you.
That's all right. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Cuts. Hey, if you like this video and this content and you thought that it helped you, please click subscribe. Would love for you to join our community. Thank you for joining.